Hello and welcome, bookworms. Welcome to this week's episode of The Contented Narrative. We will be looking at The Things We Leave Unfinished by Rebecca Yarros. Now, this was actually bought for me for my birthday by someone that I work with, Samira, who is incredibly sweet. And it's a romance. It's not my typical kind of go-to book, but it was... So she had a floral theme apparently that she was sticking with, so she thought she'd buy it for me and I'd give it a go. So essentially the premise is there's this amazing love story. There's a couple of love stories in it, but there's like this phenomenal love story, and it's set in World War II. Now this book is actually set in the present, but the amazing love story is set in World War II. So what happens is the great-granddaughter of the famous Scarlet romance author comes back to town. She's had a difficult divorce. She comes back to town, and the unfinished manuscript of her great-grandmother and the love story that she had in the Second World War is unfinished. And essentially, Georgia even, has decided, Georgia's mum has decided that she wants to finish off the book, get the money basically, because the mum is just money hungry. And Georgia's like, right, okay, fine, who's gonna write it? And so then there's this dashing, morally grey, 6 foot dazzling human being that comes into the life, because he also writes romance, but his is more of a cynical view on romance. And the modern day story is kind of like that, with your typical tropes of romance and the miscommunication as well, and the fact that she's got these walls built up because she's had a difficult divorce, and then he's working on breaking them down, and then one small miscommunication and suddenly it's straight back up again. And it's just so the modern day romance in this book wasn't a fan of. And I won't spoil the ending of the modern day romance, because you know how it ends. They end up happily ever after. Everything's forgiven. They fall back in love. You know, she realises that he was meant to be, love at first sight, loins are fluttering, that kind of thing. And she goes back to her art. He carries on with his writing, and they have a happy family together. That's not a spoiler. It's how the majority of romances end. However, the reason that I recommend this book is for the 1940s love story. The story between Scarlett and her man is just, it's just something else entirely. And when you get to the end of their love story, because it's telling both kind of simultaneously, that will have you bawling. It genuinely will. It will rip your heart out, but it will make you feel so happy. And it's a really weird one, and honestly, I'm gonna be I've always been completely honest with you guys anyway, but if that 1940s love story wasn't happening, I don't know if I'd have liked this book as much. You know, I probably would have enjoyed parts of it, but I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much, especially with the miscommunication. Like, it always annoys me. It always annoys me. And you see it in rom-coms, you see it in all kinds of films and everything, where it's like something that could have easily, and it's the third act, isn't it? The reconciliation. And it's something that's so easily, like, why don't you just talk to each other? Why don't you just say this? Why have you suddenly got to then go, oh no, he's a... Do you know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense. And I think that's why I didn't like it. But the 1940s love story between Scarlett and her American Air Force pilot is just something else entirely. And honestly, that kept me going, and that by the end of it, I was bawling. I genuinely was. And the ending of their story, I was just like, oh, I can't swear on this because obviously I don't want to get censored, but I was like, oh no. So I would definitely say give this a go. I mean, if you are a romance girly or guy, no judgment, enjoy it. I honestly, I do think you will enjoy it, but romance has never typically been my genre, and I'm happy to try it, but it's never been my cup of tea. So give this a go. The Things We Leave Unfinished by Rebecca Yarros. It is... I do think you will enjoy it, and I do think that even if the typical romance tropes isn't for you, this other storyline playing within it will be something that you thoroughly enjoy. I mean, don't come for me and hate me if if romance is your only genre. As I said, I've got no qualms against anybody that likes romance. It's just not my cup of tea. But obviously, if you do agree or disagree with anything that I say, please honestly leave it below in the comments. If there is any other sort of like romance books that you think, oh, she hasn't given this genre a fair whack, you know, leave that below in the comments as well, and I'm happy to give it a go. I also do know that somebody mentioned Kiki's Delivery Service for a book for me to read, and I'm just waiting to get a really nice edition of that, and then I'll give that a go. But yes, obviously give it a read. It gets a 4 out of 5 from me, only because I didn't like the modern romance. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments, and let me know if the the 1940s one had you bawling like I did. But thank you so much for your continued support, and remember to always keep it contento.